And a very good Monday evening. Thank you for tuning in to Time Out here on TVNB. The losing ways continue for the St. John Flames. Could the CFL find a new home here in St. John? And finally, some labor peace in the NBA. We'll be discussing that and a whole lot more coming up in the next 30 minutes. And a very good Monday evening. Welcome into Time Out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy along with Barry Johnston. Certainly hope you had a great weekend. The weather was a little wild. The game down on Harbor Station was a little wild. Let's get into that. Saturday night, the Flames play host to the Fredericton Canadians, trying to stop the bleeding of a 7-game winless streak, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
No, it's gone to 8 now, 0-7-1. It's just not looking real good right now. I really don't know what they can do now. I mean, the Flames did come out flying last night, couldn't get the breaks. Puck just wouldn't bounce their way. Of course, they had the brick wall at the face, which was Jose Theodore.
No question.
He was just phenomenal last night. You could see the NHL experience with him in net there last night.
Certainly has paid off for Theodore, and like we discussed during the game Saturday night at Harbor Station, Theodore's in a situation where he knows he had to get sent down for reconditioning, or so they call it, a reconditioning stint, but he wants to prove to the boys in Montreal that, hey, listen, I deserve to be in Montreal playing with the big club, and he certainly proved one of his points last night, or Saturday night, I should say, at Harbor Station. It just seems that, I mean, we talked about this. We had an opportunity to sit there and walk around the concourse during the game and hear some of the fans' reaction and stuff like that, but it just seems to be one of those situations where the Flames are going out there, they are trying hard, they jumped right out in the first 20 minutes, we're banging and crashing and trying to set up the opportunities, but like you said, just couldn't get any bounces, and where do they go from here? I mean, Rick Vaive and Jeff Perry simply have to be tearing their hair out at this point. They've tried mixing the lineups, they've tried goaltending changes, and nothing seems to be working for them right now. Where do they go from here?
Well, talking to Vaive last week, he was just hoping that things eventually, the monkey will come off their back and the ice will break, I guess, so to speak, and everything will start flowing a little bit better. But he said the main thing is they got to try and relax. They're trying too hard now to get that monkey off their back. They're not doing the little things right. They're running before they're walking, so to speak. And he said they got to go through the little things first. And I agree 100%. Last night they were doing those little things. They were cycling the puck well. Their passes were right on. Having sometimes a little trouble clearing the zone, but that'll come with time. I mean, like you say, he's juggling the lineups. Everybody's not really familiarized where their line mate's supposed to be.
Sure.
And I don't know, the defense looked really bad on Saturday night. They just looked really, really bad. I mean, Cooper wasn't in the lineup. Sharon looked absolutely horrible, coughing up the puck. You would have thought it was Cooper out there instead of Sharon. And I don't know. It's just, the goaltending wasn't that bad. I mean, Eisler, he let in a bad one. The second goal was a real bad goal. I don't think he had a real, he didn't have a whole lot of help.
Sure.
I mean, Matt O'Dead out there, he kind of looked like he was going through the motions, and I really don't know. Maybe goaltending, we've talked about goaltending before. You got to stop blaming people. I mean, they got to look at themselves in the mirror and say, look, I have a job to do, let's do the job. There's no I in the word team. Let's get it going, and let's play as a team. Exactly,
and for the 5,000 plus on hand, I mean, it was good to see over 5,000 at a Flames game. It's been a while since that's happened. I think the highlight would have to be Steve Bégin and Terry Ryan dropping the gloves, and Bégin definitely getting the upper hand in that battle.
Well, I looked over at Rocky Thompson there just after the fight, and he had a big smile on his face. I think to get the approval from The Rock, I think, is quite an accomplishment. But,
think you might be giving them some tips in practice?
Well, I don't know, but Bégin, boys, he was a southpaw there. He was throwing the lefts, and I just want to, we don't condone fighting here, but exactly. It was a good spirited tussle, and it kind of got the Flames into it. Then Fredericton back scored a goal and just took the wind right out of their sails again. But poor Terry Ryan, I mean, he got rocked in Fredericton the 19th of December by Chris Dingman. He got rocked again Saturday night, and when he got up off the ice, his eyes just weren't focusing too well.
Yeah.
He didn't look too well. I mean, he's getting banged around there like you wouldn't believe. He's looks like one of them balls in a pinball machine.
He took a couple of good lefts from Bégin, no question about that. Yeah. We get back to where the Flames, it doesn't get any easier for them. Fredericton overtook them in the standings. They're now in second place with 34 points. Lowell is rolling into town earlier this week, and then of course they have to play the Baby Habs again at home on Saturday night, a game which we're glad to say is going to be live here on TVNB. But where does the bleeding stop? I mean, winless in 8. I mean, like we said, Lowell coming in the first place team, and then Fredericton again on Saturday. It doesn't get much easier.
Well, after Lowell and Fredericton, I believe they hit the road after that. So, you know, you're going to be playing your out-of-division teams there, and those are games that you used to say, well, if you win one, that's fine. If you lose it, well, that's fine too. But
exactly.
You want to win the ones in your division, and they've got now 3 in a row where they should win, because those are big point games for your division, and they're just not doing it. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think they're going to be about 6 points behind Fredericton by the time you know, the weekend's over next weekend.
Well, I mean, you just got to put these points in the bank. There's no question about it. The All-Star break coming up, and I mean, you'd like to have these points and stay competitive and stay within the top of the heap, because they have got some brutal road trips coming up after the All-Star break. So, like we said, it doesn't get much easier for the Flames. Let's jump up to Calgary for a minute. The goaltending situation continues to be a mystery from day to day. Freddie Braithwaite comes out of nowhere and shuts down the top leading team in the NHL, 1-0 shutout against the Dallas Stars. What's going on?
I don't know. Maybe that beginner's luck thing, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Braithwaite hasn't played in the NHL in a long time.
Exactly.
And he came in and he just he extinguished Dallas's any hopes of winning that game. But I don't know. I mean, they got, what, 5 goaltenders up there now. And we have a hard time getting one goaltender down here. I mean, we got you know, the local kid Gary Crossman down here, you know, during practices sometimes here, and you kind of wonder, you know, if he's going to be a backup role and then maybe end up getting a nod to go into the net and maybe try and improve himself. But in Calgary, you know, with 5 goaltenders up there, I mean, they should be able to find 2 half-decent healthy ones and send whatever's left over back down here. But it'd be nice to see maybe Treflock come down and get some conditioning. I think he needs a little conditioning and a wake-up call, because, you know, maybe gone to his head that, hey, you know, I got called up to Calgary from the International League, you know, hey, you know, maybe I hit the big time again. But I don't know. It's just, it's hard to say what's going to happen there. I mean, Reagan, I think we can pretty well write Reagan off. I think he's done. It's just an age factor. I mean, the back is, you know, once your back gets bad, it's just not going to heal up the way it should.
It's hard to recover, especially at his age. It's hard to recover from
especially in hockey. I mean, the goaltender's flopping around, banging around, you know, and that spine's moving every which way but loose. So, I think Giguère and Moss will be the 2 up there, and I think you might see Treflock back here in St. John once things get on a level playing field, maybe after the All-Star break.
No question, Giguère and Moss are the future for goaltending with the Calgary franchise. And it was good to see Calgary stop the bleeding in their winless streak, but of course we wish the Flames all the best as they go up against Lowell later this week, and of course Fredericton again coming up this Saturday night. Don't forget that game is going to be on TVNB. Barry, you had an opportunity to talk to Flames forward Eric Landry a little earlier this week, so let's go to that footage and see what Mr. Landry had to say.
Eric, you sustained an eye injury earlier in the season, and I was wondering how the eye is right now and how are things going?
It's getting better. I mean, when I first started, I got the stick in the eye, and I thought it was over, and then we're a month and a half into there, and I'm starting to play again. So I guess it's going quite a lot better and quite more than I expected.
What was the feeling when you got the stick in the eye? Did you panic, or did you figure, you know, is my career over now? Because there are some players in St. John's before Christmas. A player from Providence lost his eye, or sorry, Lowell, I guess, lost his eye with a freak injury, a freak accident, I guess. Did that maybe cross your mind at all, or were you worried that maybe, or did you think maybe it wasn't as serious as you thought?
As soon as I closed my other eye and I figured out that I couldn't see from the eye I was hit, and I immediately thought about David Alexander Beauregard, which 4 years ago got an eye injury and he lost his eyesight. He was playing with me in St. Hyacinthe, and right away I thought about that guy. He was one of my best friends, and I thought, oh no, I knew this could have happened and I didn't do anything about it, and it did happen. Well, I'm lucky though.
What about the visor now? You've had to go to a half visor. You've used one all through junior, and you just started probably getting used to going without a half visor. Now you have to go back to it. Do you find it maybe a bit of a curse? Is it hindering your play any, or are you just kind of comfortable with it now because it's a safety thing and it's going to, you know, just in case another accident does happen?
You know, when I think about it, you know, it did happen to my buddy in St. Hyacinthe. He had a visor on, and it did happen to me without a visor on. I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But I think it's safe to say that if you get a visor on, it's probably less chances to get injured. And therefore, I can manage to play with the visor. And especially now, I got one eye that's not working like the other one, like it's not 100%. So if I ever get sustained an eye injury on the other one, I'll be in bad shape. So I'd rather wearing the visor. And, you know, you get used to it. It took me a good 2 weeks to get used to it, but now I guess it's not that bad.
During your recovery time, how did you stay focused? How did you keep conditioning? Were you allowed to go out and skate during practices, or were you just confined mostly to bike and light workouts?
At first, it took me 3 weeks. I couldn't do anything physical. I had to make sure that there was no bleeding inside my eye again. So I had to be like 3 weeks doing nothing, just walk around and talk, and that's about it. And after that, well, I got the okay to start training a little bit, no contact, so just skating around the ice with a puck, nobody else, and riding the bike, of course. That's been an everyday job since I got back to training. And gradually, right after Christmas, I got the okay by the doctor in Ottawa, an eye specialist, and he told me I could start playing with contact and everything again, so we're starting back from there again.
Flames winless in 06-1. What are your feelings as to what is going on, possibly that can improve, or maybe a goaltending problem? Should they, you just lost Giguère and Moss, and may not see them back here again in a uniform down here. But I realize sometimes the goaltender is the quarterback of the ice service. So what can be done right now, and what are your views on the latest winless streak?
It sure is a big job for any goaltender coming here after Jean-Sébastien and Tyler. I mean, both of them had an amazing season last year, and Jean-Sébastien, when he came down here this year, he was certainly making the big saves all the time and keeping the average very low and winning us some games. So, I mean, with his departure, it made it a lot tougher. I mean, we're not allowed as many mistakes as we should have with Jean-Sébastien, but I mean, it's all a team thing. You can't blame the goalie. You can't blame, you all got to regroup and focus on our jobs. I mean, if we don't get the goals as forwards, I mean, we don't get the win in our back, and then it's easier for the other team to get going when they get one goal. I mean, it's a team thing. You can't blame the goaltending. It's the easiest way to put it. I mean, I don't think it's only on that. It's got to be everything, the overall play together.
Fredericton comes in Saturday night, or playing here Saturday night. What do you expect what kind of a game do you expect from them coming in here? They're tied with you people right now for 23 points for second place. Portland's creeping up there. The Leafs are even creeping up there. You guys sat idle for quite a while with the winless games, but you had enough points in the bank to kind of sit there for a while. But now those points are starting to they're cashed in pretty well right now. So what are you expecting for Saturday night?
I'm expecting, well, as I know, Therrien there, his team is going to be ready. I mean, they're all going to be pumped coming here and wanting to get the win. But Rick and Jeff are making a good job making us ready and getting us pumped for the game and forgetting about the games we lost and everything and starting over. That's what we're trying to do every time we come in a game in a losing streak. I mean, we win the next game. You never know. We might win the next 10 ones. So it sure did help that we had points in bank for the lower times, which we figured at the beginning of the season it would have been good to win any game, and after Christmas you lose one or something, you're not in the bad shape.
A lot of St. John Flames fans are kind of curious as to why maybe in the third period, a game against Cincinnati, you sat out riding on the end of the bench, and the game against Hartford on Wednesday night. A lot of people are kind of wondering was it your eye that made you sit out, or is it just some other reason?
It's a lot of things happen in a hockey game, and you never know what's going to be the end of it. I mean, during the game, some thing happened, some mistakes on the ice, and I mean, I was not, I guess, not that ready to play again, and I guess Jeff and Rick decided it was better for the team for me to be off the ice and think about it, get more ready mentally and physically, which we skated a lot in the last few days, and I guess this Saturday I'm going to be ready in both ways, and that's just things that happens in hockey.
Capture the lights, camera, and action of New Brunswick on Plugged In, your exclusive eye on the arts, music, and entertainment scene. Zoom in Wednesday nights at 9:30 or Fridays at 7, only on TVNB. Bring the working life of New Brunswickers to the table with labor-oriented discussions. Thursdays at 10 and Saturdays at 5 on Channel 10 TVNB.
Punching the Clock is sponsored by the Workers' Investment Fund. This is TVNB, the New Brunswick channel.
And welcome back into the second half of Time Out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy along with Barry Johnston. Let's stay with the hockey theme. It's been a topic we've discussed as 98 wrapped up, and I guess it's over with. The saga has finally finished. Felix Potvin finally gets his wish and gets a trade. He's going to the New York Islanders in exchange for 21-year-old offensive, defensive-minded Brian Berard. Who got the better half of this deal?
Well, the Islanders need a goaltender, and as we saw Kuzno play the other night, so I don't know. I don't know. I think Toronto can benefit from an offensive-minded defenseman. You know, I mean, they don't need a whole lot of offense right now. I mean, they're firing on all cylinders right now. But I don't know. I'd have to almost say it's a 50-50 deal. I mean, Toronto's going to benefit from a young defenseman on defense with experience. I mean, 21 years old is young with experience in this day and age in the NHL. But I think the Islanders may have the slight edge there. If you were going to do a 60-40 thing, I think that to be towards the Islanders.
And I mean, with the Leafs being the top leading scoring team in the NHL, I mean, this will only add to it. I mean, the All-Star break coming up, Berard is a little hurt. You know, he's healing up. They say he will be ready to jump in the lineup as they get ready to go on that 7-game road swing later on this week. But, I mean, this is just a plus. I mean, the brass in Toronto have done a fantastic job. I mean, they were under the spotlight. The scrutiny was there. Felix walks out of, you know, literally walks away from the team, goes home to Montreal, living with his mother and father. And, you know, they just said, we're not going to rush a deal. We're not going to get, you know, a player that we don't want. We're going to wait. We're going to be patient. And I think Mike Smith, Ken Dryden, and the rest of the brass in Toronto need to be congratulated for this.
Well, one thing I was quite impressed with, Ken Dryden didn't crack under the pressure. Like, he didn't break and say, yeah, okay, let's deal him right away, and maybe have really, you know, flubbed up the deal, I guess, you know. Like, he waited and waited and waited to see what he really wanted and what they needed. I mean, they're getting close to the All-Star break, so he was looking at, well, I mean, I guess maybe we could use an offensive-minded defenseman, you know, which, you know, might benefit them in the long run down the stretch.
Sure.
So, no, I think they made a pretty good deal. I mean, I was surprised it was a straight deal right across the board. I figured it would have been 2 for 1 or something like that, or considerations or something. But they must have figured it was an even trade, so, you know, we'll see what the critics have to say later on.
Well, Milbury's happy, Pat Quinn's happy, everybody's happy. So the Felix Potvin saga has finally come to a close. We can close the chapter and say that's it, and we'll see how he makes out on the island. We'll see how Berard makes out as well.
We'll see how Vancouver makes out now with Bure, see what they do there.
Yeah, exactly. There's another saga that continues to roll on. Let's flip over to the hardcourt of the NBA. The deadline was this past week. They had a 12-hour emergency meeting. They finally come to some sort of agreement. The players are going back. The owners are happy now. They are going to squeeze in a shortened season, of course. They'll get that rolling in about a week and a half, but I don't know. I don't know if they can bounce back from this. I think the one comment that really killed me, and it didn't surprise me that it came from this guy, Charles Barkley, of course, after the deal was signed, Barkley had to say, I don't care what the fans think. I'm not here for the fans. I'm here to play. I'm here to win, and that's it. I mean, you know, I don't know what this guy's thinking about. I don't know whether he was dropped on his head as a child or what this story is with Charles Barkley, but for the NBA to go through the pain that they have gone through when this labor thing started back last summer, for him to stand in front of a camera on national TV and say he doesn't care what the fans think, David Stern is going to have more gray hair in that beard of his than he ever had. I mean, what's wrong with this guy? Well,
I mean, if anybody who's followed Sir Charles through his career known that the only closest thing to him would be Dennis Rodman for off-the-wall comments and stuff. So, no, I mean, you could expect that from Charles. I mean, you're going to get that from a couple of other players too, but maybe not as high-profile players as Charles Barkley is. But Charles always, you know, he said whatever he thought, and that's probably why a lot of fans like him. But I don't know. I like Sir Charles. I like his attitude. Sure, I like him. I like him too, but only to a certain point. I mean, but I think if it's not for the fans, I mean, you know, there were numbers bantied around when this labor thing was going on. You know, $2.5 billion was at stake if the season was totally lost, if they did lock the doors and shut it down for the year. But the main source of revenue for teams in the NBA, whether it be the Raptors, the Bulls, you know, the Grizzlies, whoever, comes from the fans walking through the turnstiles.
And that's, you know, that's just black and white. It doesn't get much more simpler than that.
Yeah.
And for Barkley, being one of the high-profile players that he has been over the years, you know, great player, not going to take anything away from him when he's on the court, puts the Nikes on and plays the game. But when he's in front of the camera, there has to be something that goes off in his head that says, now wait a minute, this could be a stupid thing, I better not say this. But he says it anyway, you know.
Well,
like,
the mouth is in gear before the mind is. I
exactly.
mean, mind in neutral, the mouth is in full drive at, you know, full speed ahead. But
yeah.
He's always been like that, though. He's always been in controversial situations. I mean, they've done interviews in the past where he said things, he's been fined, he's been suspended, and it's like you say, maybe he doesn't think before he speaks, and that's probably unfortunate. But like you say, I mean, the fans are the ones that pay their salaries. I mean, probably up to maybe a 75% of it, so to speak, or
exactly.
put a percentage on it. But he's just Charles. So that's the only way to describe it. But to say that with them trying to salvage a bit of the season left, they're not going to get any fans as it is.
Right.
And that just may have hurt them even more by making a comment like that. But I don't know. Maybe they should have just wrote off the season and said, hey, let's start over fresh next year, because they're only going to have, what, 52 games, 53 game schedule. So that's not really a whole lot. It's a very abbreviated season, and to try and salvage back the fans in a small season like that is going to be real difficult.
Well, the title's up for grabs. There's no question about that. One more thing about this NBA thing. Do the fans come back, or do they go through the growing pains that Major League Baseball did?
Oh, I think they're going to go through growing pains. I think Americans, you know, they showed that in baseball, and I think they're going to do the same thing with basketball, very much so. And it'd be interesting to listen to some of the sports talk shows down in the States as to what they had to say about it, too.
No question. I mean, especially in some of the mainstays like town cities like Boston, Chicago. Does Michael Jordan come back and play? Is he going to retire? I mean, everything's up in the air right now. And, of course, with the labor strike, they couldn't talk to any of these players and try to work out a deal. So it's going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks before they get the season rolling. There's so many people, unrestricted free agents that haven't been signed yet. Michael Jordan is a big question, so it's going to be interesting to sit back and watch, no question about that. Local topic, and this is a beauty. This has been the talk around the water coolers, at Tim Hortons, at work, whatever the case might be. If you're walking through the Pedway, the word CFL continues to be the buzzword around town. MP Elsie Wayne had a chance to sit down and chat with J.I. Albrecht, the man who is trying to spearhead this campaign and bring a team to St. John. They sat down earlier this week. I had a chance to speak with Elsie on Thursday of last week, and she said that she's all for it. She's gung-ho. She's got the banner out. She's waving it. She thinks it's a great idea. She'd like to see maybe an exhibition game come here this June to see what kind of response they do get. I know we touched on this briefly as we wrapped up last week, but go ahead.
My feelings are still the same. You can't put 5,000 in a heated facility. You're not going to put 10, 15,000 in a bone-chilling cement stadium. There's just no way you're going to do that. I mean,
different season though. They start playing in June.
Well, you're on Elsie's side there now. You're saying, you know, that it's warmer. And
I'm going to play devil's advocate with you on this one.
Well, you've always done that before. So. But no, you just, I don't know. When you get around September, October here in St. John, it gets a little damp there sitting and gets a little chilly. But I mean, there's going to be some nights where they're going to postpone because of fog, because of.
Oh, you're right on top of the river out there.
Well, I mean, you know. You start airing one out, you know, you're not going to see it, and the receiver's going to say, well, where is it? It's coming down somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know. The St. John Seagulls.
That's our nickname. That's not official, folks. That's our nickname that we picked for it.
Well, what else are you going to call them? The fog burners or something? I don't know.
It's hard to say. There's a couple of things here that you go down the list. You know, I mean, obviously, when someone says we want to bring a franchise to the city, you think economics. Sure, great. If you know, put some more people to work, be great for the city. Just, you know, economic boom. Period. But there's a lot of factors that stick out that are question marks. The Canada Game Stadium, beautiful facility for soccer. For CFL football, there's going to have to be a lot of work put into it.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a lot of corporate sponsorship. Second thing that really pops into my head when you talk about, even if they do renovate the stadium and seat it for 20,000 folks, where are they going to park?
Well, that's true, too. I mean, you know, the only big facility for parking there is the hospital parking. And
that's it.
You know, they're not going to allow you to park there. That's for sure, especially on a Saturday afternoon, maybe on a Thanksgiving weekend or something when families in visiting and the parking lot's usually full.
Exactly.
I don't know. They're going to have to do a lot of renovating out there. There is space out there, but it's all on rock, and there's going to be a lot of drilling and whatnot out there to try and get parking. So it'd be nice for, you know, UABSJ sitting back saying, sure, you want to renovate our stadium? You go right ahead.
Go for it.
We don't care.
Absolutely not. Why would they?
You know, what more can you say about it? But I just can't see it flying here in the city. I just really can't see it getting off the ground. I mean, I'd be behind Elsie if it could, you know, if they could do it. But, you know, they say, well, you get people from Fredericton down and Moncton and, you know, the outlying areas and maybe a little bit from Nova Scotia, but...
That's the next factor that she mentioned, and we'll get into this quickly. She said that we'd be able to draw the fans from Halifax, and that's who we're in a battle with for this franchise, is Halifax. Get the fans from Halifax, Fredericton, and even from across the border down in Calais.
Well, I don't know if you get too many of the Americans or not because they're pretty spoiled with the NFL, but around this area, I think people would go to it. It'd be a novelty for a while, but I don't think it would last any longer, maybe 5-6 years. Sure. I think the novelty would wear off, unfortunately. Well,
like Elsie said, it was just a meeting. They sat down, had some ideas on the table, throw them against the wall, see if they stick. So, over the next few weeks, over the next few months, I'm sure the CFL buzzword is going to be sticking around, and we'll keep you posted as the information rolls in. That's going to do it. 30 minutes is gone. Just like that. Thank you very much for coming in.
No trouble.
We'll see you at the Flames game Saturday night.
We'll be there.
As they take on Fredericton, and hopefully that winless slide can come to a close. Thank you for tuning in.
Local blackout, so we should mention.
There you go. Local blackout is in effect. And we thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and we certainly hope you have a good week, and we'll talk to you again next Monday at 6 o'clock.